And hello everybody, welcome to Bunland! It's time for the chess tournament! And I am sorry that it is too late to sign up at this point. We closed sign-ups only 3 hours ago. The bracket is finalized. It looks great. We've got 21 participants in this tournament. 2 rounds have already been played prior to this stream, and we have just opened up and begun. I'm going to be streaming a lot of these matches live right now, starting with I believe we're looking at Krishna versus Nike. I think that in this, as far as the seeding goes, Krishna is one of the favorites for the tournament. And Nike, I don't know the rating of, but there are a lot of very talented players in this tournament. I know that I'm in this tournament and I'm going to... we've got a losers bracket, so I get to play 2 rounds at least, but I don't think I'm going to win very much, but that's okay. We're here to play. So we've already seen a showing from, and I don't want to give away too much of the score. We'll try to not have that on screen too much. We've got 2 games to review later. But for now, I'm going to fly over, and there's a lot of this is all really being organized on Discord. So I am right now being handed a link to the game as tourney operator. And as soon as that happens, I'm going to throw that up on screen, and we're going to watch it. Earlier, you don't have an account, so your name would be anonymous. That's fine. Nike will appear as anonymous on Lichess. Well, of course, every time we move platforms, we acquire new names or variations of names. So on Lichess, Nike will appear as anonymous. So will I believe. And Krishna would have to create it. Actually, one of the reasons I chose this platform, Lichess, is because you don't need to register in order to create an account, or rather a game. You don't need to register to create a game or to join them, which is fantastic for its accessibility. And so for that convenience, it's our chosen platform for the tournament. I have allowed people to use other platforms should they choose, but this is the only one that I'm going to be streaming. You're up. I'm going to just let them know we're 2 minutes in. I want to look at a little bit of this game. I am going to reveal the bracket, and it's okay. Matches have already happened, and you'll know results because of that. I've saved one though. One of them has only been reported to me, so I'll reveal that live. This match is oh goodness, who was it? One Up Scott and Son played, but I didn't get to see it. I was earlier today at the summer program that I'm doing with the kids. I got to share one of these Blasius versus Shadow. I got to show this one live with the kids, and there was a little circle of like 8 of us looking at the phone and watching this game that I'm going to share again here. And I'm not going to reveal the result and we're gonna get to play through it again. And we'll do this while I wait for the link to the other game to come in, and we'll watch that live when it does. But right here at the opening, we get kind of the classic, I put my king pawn forward, and then this interesting response and immediate capture. What an opening. Queen comes out right away. Wow, loving this. I'm not a very adept or experienced chess player. I know there's a gameplay, or an opening called Queen's Gambit. I don't think this is it. I don't know though. What a move to get the queen right out into the middle of the board. Immediately it's threatened by White's knight, so it retreats a step. White in this game is, I believe, it's Hun King Officer, who is Blasis. Here's again where the names are constantly changing from platform to platform. So Blasis moves out their knights, threatening Shadow's queen, which retreats. Now we develop some pieces, and Blasis takes control of the center of the board, moves bishop to hold sight on protected knight, other knight, and this is interesting because the engine always ends up suggesting moves. There's an engine called Stockfish that can play the game and analyze it, and we're going to see its suggestions as we go through the replay here. Don't know if he's up. Oh no. If people don't show up for their scheduled matches, then we'll move on to whoever's available, or I'll review games that have already happened. But that's unfortunate. I'll message. The next scheduled game was actually going to be myself versus the leader of the Thunder Thump Guild that we all share in Growcastle. In fact, almost all of the players, except for I think one of the players in this tournament, played Growcastle. It's the community that we connected through. Here's what I love about games, connecting people, and we're going to play chess together now. I'm going to fly over to Discord and poke my opponent. We have an opening in the schedule. Are you free now to play? And I'm gonna get a link, and we're gonna demonstrate right away why I like Lichess so much. Whoops, I don't know its address. Apparently it's org.org. Great. And I just hit here, and this is a great tutorial for anyone interested in ever doing this. I highly recommend this. Play with friend. I'm gonna take a random color, and I'm gonna copy this link and send it to my friend over here. We're done. That's all I needed to do. That's really all I needed to do. And now they hit that link, and this becomes our game together right away. So we'll wait for that to happen and see if I can get a live game started here. In the meantime, I'll have to play Tournament Operator, wrangle people, and at Krishna may not be able to make this time slot anyone available for their match. Just put it out to everyone. First come, first serve. I've included myself as the potential games I could bring up live. Immediately back into this, I'm looking at, here's where the engine is suggesting you could have moved your knight out. I think developing the knight was better than developing the bishop. Here's Blasis responding with their own bishop, which is immediately captured and traded for the queen's positioning. The other knight is now being developed in a different direction. At this point, Blasis castles, and the engine is suggesting that Shadow should have moved a pawn, but they responded with a queenside castle, and both players started to build pretty defensive position, aside from Blasis's advancing bishop. It's interesting to see the engine's little suggestions. Moves in with the knight that's protected, but there's not really any threat on the queen. The rook moves off of an open file, but it does look down a file that would be awesome if it opened up. I don't know about taking it away from viewing the queen or discovering a view to the queen eventually, but I'm not very good at chess. At this point, now we're seeing Blasis's kind of offensive here. We're really moving in. We're capturing a pawn, and there's a counter-offensive building right now. this queen kind of threatening to capture rook. It's kind of blocked by a protected knight. I guess that rook is also protected. There's some threat happening there, and it's a safe spot to exist on the other side of the board. It's accepting that Blasis is going to get a rook out of this, which feels a little bit like a real price to pay for that queen's positioning. But it's what happened. Here we go. Shadow begins trying for the offensive that's immediately interrupted. The knight was protected, and the trade did happen. The queen is now protected, wasn't previously, so Shadow fought for that position. And here we see Blasis advance a single pawn toward the queen. Not the one that could threaten it, mind you. The one right in front of it who is protected by 2 pawns. At this point, Shadow returns their queen back a step. I'm going to... How Am I Alive has stepped up. Their opponent is Toasted. We're going to ping them. Toasted, can you play right now? Let's get this on. Somebody get a game in. Let's see, they retreat, and the advance is not stopping. Blasis is getting more pieces out on the board. This one is looking through an unprotected, or a knight protected by queen, at the queen. The knight gains more protection from another rook, which was, initially moved back to a file. It eventually rested in again. Now its position is threatened by this knight, and it takes a step forward to keep its eyes on the knight it's protecting while not being threatened by that white knight. Here we go. The advance never stops from Blasis. Toasted and How Am I Alive are going to get a game going here, so we'll have a live one on screen, which will be exciting. Not that this isn't. At this point, at the park earlier today with the kids, when we were watching this on my phone, I believe that we were a crowd of about 4 or 5. There were some of us that really sat there from beginning to end with this match. Maybe 3 of us that really made it from beginning to end. And toward the end, as it got really exciting, it became quite a crowd. But at this point, we're, eating some snacks and eating our lunches and watching this play out. Unlimited is the time control. It's being asked on Discord. Yes, unlimited. Or what you agree to. I am fine with people agreeing to whatever time control they'd like to use. Many people are familiar with playing with a time control. I've offered a very casual tournament that does not have one. This is a very friendly setting. The prize for winning this tournament is 1 billion swag points that have no monetary value. That's the prize. So I wish the best to whoever can make it in their quest for that billion. That billion swag points. Is a lot of swag points of no value, but it's a lot of swag points. You gotta be after it, and it's very fun. Very fun to go against each other in a contest to prove you're potentially the best. Here it comes. There's the link. I don't want to click it right away. Let me know when I can click. Because whoever clicks the link first enters the match as the opponent. Other people that follow the link may spectate. So those of us that are sharing this space in Bunland, and if you are watching and are not in the Bunland Discord, it is where things like this are organized and the games that I play on stream are determined. Hop on in there and have fun with us. It's links in the description. I'm going to open this game. We're ready. Okay, so TM Trashmaster, which is a great name, thank you, must be Toasted as, I believe, no, maybe that was a different person, sorry. How Am I Alive? Let's see, who... Sign in the chat. I'm not signed in, so I can't chat. We'll do that later. Who is what color? I'll ask them. And we'll see if we can determine. Right now, white is gaining immediate control of the center of the board. And black to move, who threw a pawn out on the outside that opened a path out for the queen, captures. This is only threatened by the white's queen at the moment. That's an interesting position. I've never seen an opening quite like this. And again, I'm not the most experienced chess player, but it's fun to see the contest for the center of the board now becoming this odd configuration with an advancing black pawn with nothing behind it. So immediate, and the knight comes out to support it as one knight comes to threaten it. There's a lot happening on this space. Getting a piece to the other side of the board this early in the game. White's just going to do it. I'm on my side. You can take my knight if you want. I will trade for queen, potentially. Black is not going to do that. It's going to develop another piece. My opponent, Dr. Chocolate Banana, just let me know that we may be happening a little later. We'll see. But we'll get our game in. The capture from the queen did happen after the knight trade took place. It took a minute to get there. Pawns advancing. Takes control of that space. Just asks, threatening the knight. Has to be sacked by that pawn that was put forward now. That is now threatening the queen, which commands a move. You must do something about this. Other queen has eyes. Queens are staring each other down. And you move out your bishop to put the other king in check. It's blocked by enemy bishop. Bishop protected by knight. This is all fine. Capture that was needed happens. Can't put him in check anymore. Goes for it. Knight gonna trade down pieces. Did it with the queen. Puts king in check. Other queen comes out. Queen trade option. A moment to think. Let's see if I am white right now. Thank you, How Am I Alive, for letting us know on Discord that you are white. It is How Am I Alive white versus Toasted black. Alive moves out bishop. It's now developed. It's on the board. This rook developed on an open file now stares down a protected knight. And Alive to move. Moves their queen out of position of the threatening queen trade to an unprotected pawn now that the rook has left. With threat to the back row. Gets pressured by a protected pawn. This pawn is protected by the queen now. And Alive is going to move their queen between them with threat to a protected rook that cannot see the queen back. This point, Toasted is going to be able to get a knight in the middle of the board to fork the opposing knight. The trade is taken. Queen takes. Queen now in the middle of the board and unprotected. It's going to have to figure out what it's doing. Taking advantage of this loose situation and the queen removing their protection from the rook. The capture happens. The queen trade is offered. It was the only move that Toasted had to get out of check. And Alive moves out of the queen trade and into check again. Could have moved king. No, actually couldn't have. The queen was in that space. Sorry. That was the only move that Toasted had to get out of check again. Here's another one. It requires blocking with queen. Is done close instead of far from the king. This is an interesting stalemate kind of situation. We could see the queens dance like this, but Alive is going to just take the spoils of a pawn or maybe two, though that one's protected by the queen right now. And Toasted has a move here to develop some pieces. And this will be important for the position that it puts Toasted in. There's a break in the onslaught. Oh, wow. You said I have no one watching still. I gotta ping the various Discord communities that are a part of this. Live now with the chess tournament. Let's go over here and let's paste links to Bunland. Thanks, Charlie, for the heads up. I will bring you some company. Over here. See that any of them want to stop by. Meanwhile, Toasted now moving bishop out to threaten Alive's king. Alive has developed their rook to threaten the queen across the way, but instead of protecting that, Toasted is going to move their bishop and it's going to be taken. The Toasted, of course, trades at least that piece. the queens have been traded. And no, sorry, they've not been traded. This queen is still very well and alive and putting the king in check into a position where the queen will win a rook. This is looking grim for Toasted. There's a lot of work to do here, and a miracle and maybe some blunders from Alive that see Toasted winning this match, but they've just traded their one remaining minor piece for capture by a pawn. And now we see only pawns. Maybe a resignation here. We may be seeing exactly where people are advancing in the bracket here. Looking back at the bracket. This match is moving out the king. Going to be chased down by the queen. Need to set up a checkmate with queen, rook, king, and pawns. Advancing. Gotta wonder what Toasted is working for here. A stalemate is a potential victory. A very wild mate with just king and pawns would be extraordinary, but there's no room to do that with the queen chasing you down and eventually a rook released to pursue as well. And your pawns are getting eaten up. Board is disappearing. It's late game. And the blunder of losing the queen was a price too steep. Too steep to be put back in control of the game. Sorry for the late reply. Here comes Krishna, who was originally scheduled for this time. Oh, congratulations to them. They have gotten their COVID vaccine, though they had to sleep more. Sleep is good. Sleep is good. Sleep it off. Are you sure you're ready? My experience with the COVID vaccination was that I was very, very tired. And in fact, I just slept an entire day away. It slept away the fever. It slept away the fatigue and the aches. All of it. Just slept it away. So hearing that, I'm like, I don't know if I'd wanted to do a chess tournament when I was then. But you're insisting you're ready. Black is resigned. Toasted knew it. The position. It's clear. Congratulations, how am I alive? You will advance, and no worries, Toasted. We're playing with a loser's bracket, so you will be able to play another round still. How am I alive takes it. We're playing best of ones in this tournament, in an interest of time. Oops. Submit the scores. It's 1-0. We're making you work. There we go. Toasted moves into the loser's bracket. We'll play the loser of round 7, which is going to be between I Like Frogs is Khaki on Discord, Folo. They're going to be able to play their match tomorrow at our noon time in the Pacific time zone. Yes. Send, letting now Krishna know on the Discord. Send me the link of your game here. So I can feature it on stream. And we're going to be moving on. We're going to, in a moment, be able to see Krishna Das, and Nike going head-to-head to move on to play against Oryx, who I believe is a pretty good player. And as I was saying earlier, I think Krishna is one of our favorites for the tournament. Highly seeded. So we'll see how this plays. Yes. You may now start playing Krishna as you've asked on Discord. Just send me the link to your game so I can show it on stream. Anytime you're ready, start playing. Very cool. Good game, you both. It played for about maybe 15 minutes. Decent pace for a chess game. That's the format right there. Krishna is present. Nike, we're waiting for a response from. Thank you for pinging your opponent, Krishna. It's an interesting, I'm imagining now the chess tournament floor, the tourney operators walking around and calling matches, and you're, finding what table you're playing at and where it's happening. But in the online realm, you're probably at home or wherever you are, and you're on your phone or you're at a computer, and you get a buzz that says, hey, you ready to play? And you open a virtual table on LiChess, send a link to your friend, and play from your phone. And that's what we're doing. Here's the online space, the virtual one. Are you ready, Nike, to join us there? Because we are ready and waiting. And I'm going to get to review a little more of this previous game that is now on screen while we wait for that. We're looking at, and now I'm seeing a post-game discussion between Toasted and How Am I Alive, Christian and Nike coming up. We're looking at the previous game of Shadow versus Blasis. Blasis playing white moves their queen down the board to capture a pawn and be in position to start just generally being a nuisance. Love that advance on that side of the board. At this point, black sets up the board with a pawn protects a knight, while Blasis puts a knight on the rim, which is generally advised against, though I'm not good at chess, and probably in position to support the queen in some ways, with like this space and such. And like this advance with queen, it's now got eyes on the rook. It also threatens this pawn from behind, and through it, a little bit of heat on the rook there. Which is unprotected, so is this pawn. Or sorry, this is only protected by the pawn. Blasis develops their rook a little and puts it in a position where it'll have a fighting chance against the queen with a pawn between them. We're going to see, I keep having to have eyes over on the Discord to see when that's happening. After that, we're going to see that Shadow moves their knight to put some pressure on Blasis's queen, which is handled by moving their queen and presenting the option of a queen trade. At this point in the game, glancing, it looks like Blasis is up on pieces. They've got two rooks, they share the bishops, they share the knights, there's a lot more pawns, 2 more pawns for Blasis. So at this point, trading down pieces is just going to make their lead better. So they present the queen trade. It is declined by a player that knows they'd be losing if they accepted it, but their queen's position's forced to move here, where it retains its threat on the rook, in fact increases it, threatening it could happen, though there's protection from a bishop that prevents the move right now. The knight is moved out of the corner, now protects the rook, and a capture. Rook captures pawn right in front of queen, rook is protected by other queen. That's not a trade you want to take as Blasis, unless you really recognize, no, there's no way you can trade your queen away and not get theirs. It's not a trade. You got to move the queen away. Knight advances, keeps pressure on. And at this point, rook captures, and Blasis, has 2 minors and a major piece lined up to start putting some pressure on the king, while I feel like this attack is still forming. Nothing's really threatening to, except maybe when this queen can come through and be protected by a pawn if this queen's absent and off duty, or ends up getting traded, though we know that Shadow is less inclined to accept the trade at this moment. Make sure I'm not missing. Nike hasn't arrived yet for their tournament match. We've got a table with 1 player sitting, and we're calling Nike, table 5. I'm looking at this choice to capture pawn. It was left open, it's unprotected. I don't know how much it develops the rook's position. It's just 1 row further. At this point, yeah, I was looking at how Shadow's, it's so convenient that Shadow is black because shadows are black and it's easy to remember. There's a question from Alive, How Am I Alive, in the Discord that I'm going to share. So for the final round, the main bracket versus losers. Is it 2 wins for the loser bracket or just best of 1? 2 wins for the loser. That's a good question. Sometimes the double elimination format is played differently. I'm playing that the winner of the losers bracket has to win twice first, moving the winner of the winners bracket into losers bracket and then winning the grand finals there. For those of you familiar with the format and that technical, question, it is answered. For this match right here, I'm looking again at this hot spot with a knight threatening and a queen that would love to be there if it was unprotected and threaten mate in some form or another. And we can see this attack happening with a bishop and rook kind of still some protection to home. bishop's going to move out and join the offensive on this pawn. There's so much focus. And that pawn is going to get some attention also from white, played by Blasis, who isn't giving up necessarily their support on the attack, staying in the same diagonal, though, you know, getting some pressure on what is becoming a really key contended spot. Bringing back up in here just in case that ever becomes important, or eventually maybe will. I'm not the mastermind chess player here. What up, Best and Sun? Thank goodness it's not my match. Yeah, as tourney operator, I've been calling people up. There's opportunity right now to play a match, actually. So if you can find your opponent and get in, the table is open. Table's open. I'm reviewing an earlier match right now. We see a pawn come forward to threaten this knight's advance down the board, and it has to take a step back. It is threatened by a rook. It is not protected. It's also threatened by a bishop. Oh, it's protected by a pawn. Never mind. In spite of that, Blasis is ready to trade down pieces because they're leading. So they do, all the way down to the pawn. And Shadow resumes their advance. Good offense as the good defense. And pressure now being put on Shadow's bishop, which is not responded to immediately. We're going to see Shadow take a free pawn that was unprotected with their queen. At this point, without losing sight on this pawn who's still got 3 pieces trained on it, and only 2 or 3 if you count the king protecting, we're going to see this queen look out on an open file and threaten this currently unprotected rook that's now in hot water. So it's going to capture a pawn and offer a rook trade. That Blasis, who is leading, is going to accept. At this point now, we see Blasis move their rook down back to defensive position. The actions being played on this side of the board now was Black's offensive that eventually moved the board. Now at this point, it looks like the engine, Stockfish, is saying, I would have moved my queen, as Blasis, right to this spot and put them in check. Instead, Blasis did this and forked the enemy queen and bishop while presenting option of no queen trade. This is not contended. And Shadow handles this by putting Blasis in check, continuing their advance. Blasis moves out of check rather than giving their queen in a no trade situation. And forked loses a knight to Shadow's queen. That was a brilliant play from Shadow. What an opening that they had in that moment. At this point, Blasis says, no, I'm just going to start putting you in check with my queen. And there's either a I lose my queen or I move my king out of the way situation for Shadow as well. Both of them, defending their castle positions. Their escape pawns have been prepared previously so that they had a space to move to. Blasis moves right back to the opposite corner, and the advance happens on the rook. Blasis sets up for a potential advance in to set up an interesting mate, is checked by the bishop, moves back home where the advance is protected by the queen. Pawns are setting up for position or to make it to the end of the board. Captures happen, and there's now a serious threat that Shadow could get one there. Blasis takes position with king. Engine recommends fork that pawn and the king, put him in check, and get your spoils. Instead, Blasis does move to block the pawn, but without putting them in check. At this point, the engine says you've opened yourself up to black moving queen to d5, which is not what Shadow did. Shadow moved here, and the engine's like, I thought that you... And now Blasis moves their queen up, and the engine's like, at this point, I really want you to move your queen back to where it is threatening the rook, because the rook's not protected except by the king. And instead, Shadow develops the pawns and makes the potential of that getting a second queen real, which would really turn the game around in a crazy way. At this point, we see pawns developing, but not in ways that Stockfish likes. We see the queen moving, and we're just trying to jockey for position to get some action to happen. At this point, the engine is suggesting that You gotta get him in check now, but that's not what we do. We threaten the bishop. Queen moves to capture a pawn and put us in check. Now Glacis is going to move their king. The bishop comes to advance to hopefully perhaps open up space to, well, it's protecting both these pawns now, which is nice. And my opponent might well be ready, which is great. That means that we'll have a match here. Great. No need for voice unless you really want. I'll set it up. Actually, that would be cool. I think that I can do it on Discord. I can do it on Discord. Let me just relaying that in the chat. Make sure that I'm hearing it and that you're hearing it. Let's go up here and monitor its level and get everything set. And then I'll play. Yes, yours, because I typoed. That's fine. Start a voice call. And I'm going to need to hear Doc Chalk speak before I let myself through in the call. I'm going to need to change my settings to... Thank you for giving me a moment to do this. Setting, doing all the off-screen work. Wasn't ready to fire this off right away. And we'll see when that happens. I am gonna keep eyes now. We're watching the very end, the tense end. At this point, when we were watching this game at school together, at summer camp, we were at the park, right? And we towards the end of the game, it got really exciting here. It got really tense and really close. Just seeing the difference between a major and a minor piece and these constant back and forth checks with the two queens still on the board. We had a group of about 6 of us at this point. It eventually got to 8, but at this point there was about 6 of us, and we were really invested and really sticking with this game. So we're going to come back to it or continue it in little spurts while we wait. Ready whenever you are. And we'll see. We're connected on voice. We're unmuted. We can be heard, I hope. Assuming everything works. If we're lucky, we'll hear Doc Talk too. When you connect, you'll be audible on stream. No problem. You need a second. That's cool. I got another game to review. So the 6 of us were watching, and Queen moves again in ways that Stockfish doesn't like, but I do like parts of this move where it threatens a bishop that's protected by a queen, and says you can't move that bishop, it's pinned, because I would otherwise put you in check. The queen moves to maintain its protection on the bishop while now threatening an unprotected rook, which is going to move itself into a position where it offers a trade. It says, if you want, I'll trade my... Oh, we are joined by Dr. Chalk. How's it going?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. It's chess time, and I'm excited.
All right. Where do I click to get decimated here? Because you sound like you know what you're talking about. And
that's great. I don't know too much, I think, but I know a bit. I know enough to talk a little bit about it for the stream. Hit up the
Anonymous is inviting you. Join.
Yeah. So it looks like
I think I'm there.
We're both anonymous, but I am black, I think, because black is on my side. Yes. You play the back pieces, it indicates on screen. Excellent.
Where do I go?
You get to go wherever you want, I think. That's how the game works, right?
I think so.
It's up to you, and then we see who ends up in a winning position after we make some choices. I'm just gonna do this and try to claim. I like claiming the center. It seems basic, but I'm basic.
I've lost both games I've played by trying to claim the center.
So. Oh yeah, so now you're on the outside.
All three games. I played 3 games.
All 3.
Lost them both.
Look at me just being crazy aggressive right away.
Well, that was just shitty.
I'm just going for it.
Are you going for it, Bun?
I went for it. I'm
Did you go
out
for
there. Move
You are
3
out
on your
there.
side of the board. Or move 2. I got that pawn out
You
of the
took a
way so I could
pawn.
have action.
You just took a pawn.
Yeah, that's all. But I'm feeling saucy. I feel good about it.
Are you feeling saucy?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit saucy?
A little bit. I'm wondering what you're about to do, though.
I'm also wondering what I'm about to do if it's any
All right. I
consolation.
guess that's why it hasn't quite happened yet. We're joined by Laser Vision alias Katrine. You forgot that I was playing this game. You were even one of the people watching. I don't know if you caught earlier on the stream, Doc. I don't know if you were listening, but I streamed one of the games.
I've been laying next to my kid telling me that she didn't want to do anything. So
I'm gonna move a pawn to threaten that knight real quick, just to be a nuisance, honestly. I don't see it doing too much damage. Nice. Unless it...
Right, there. I'm out of the way.
You're out of the way. That's great.
Let's
go ahead and... Oh no, I can't do that.
You can do that.
We're gonna move other things. I guess I want to move knights out now. And I think I want to protect this one. There, I made a move. It's your turn.
What does it mean that it could not read notes from the server?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know all the features that this has. Just that it's pretty accessible. Sure.
Item badge.
This is interesting. I just gotta move back. Happy that I know a lot of the kids are joining us now and still watching.
Oh, I apologize for that one.
Just
please do remind me.
I will. I will. There's a lot of language that will be very offensive to a lot of people, and people learning of those words for the first time just need to understand at least that.
Yes, and that is an inappropriate usage of that term. You should not use such gendered notation.
There you go. You're even hearing it from the person who spoke it. There are a lot of reasons, and you can ask your parents if you care to.
Yeah, I'm a relic of my time, and it's not a good excuse.
I was planning on you doing that. Yeah, good for you. Making the effort. And thanks for maintaining awareness. I was wondering if you do that because it sets you up to just threaten my bishop in a way that's hard to back up. Again, so I was kind of planning to just throw the pawn in the way. Because I don't think there's enough developed to stop that advance into your end of the board yet.
Were you explaining to me why you made the move you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's how I like to play games.
Got it. Got it.
And it's definitely more interesting.
I like it when the horses are next to each other.
I love that. That's so cute. Put those horses together. It's pretty neat, those horses next to each other. What they're doing to the board right now, it's pretty neat. It's and it sounds like Laser Vision, this isn't your game. Yeah, different people are interested in different games. And I don't know what I'm doing in this one right now. What was that, Doc?
Is Laser Vision talking? Because I can't hear Laser Vision.
Laser Vision isn't speaking, though they are speaking in the YouTube chat.
Oh, okay. Is laser spelled with an S?
I'm borrowing the screen name that they have on Roblox. It's a LAZR.
Oh, okay.
Where it's spelled
good.
There.
So Z, so the cool way.
The cool way, yeah, essentially. It's your move.
That's the way it should be.
I'm throwing just the way it should be. Absolutely, I agree.
Oh, can you tell me what you did? I was skipping.
I moved my knight out. I think it's indicated with the yellow squares, the last piece.
It is indicated. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm updating some stuff, so I figure it's okay if I do some skips and such while we play.
I'll have to drop a quick 20 script on Grow Castle myself. We are both playing with these games. Oh, I'm doing +3 waves
I'm
right
at
now.
972k, so I'm less than 30k away from 1 million, and I got to make sure I get there before excuse me. What's that guy's name that's better than me at this game?
Which one?
Walrus before Walrus.
Space Walrus. Yeah, he's fast.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't keep up
I don't
with
know
him.
if I wanted to play that move. I moved. I don't know if it was a good one.
You moved. Okay. You've moved.
I moved.
You gotta feel good about just making choices, you know?
Well, I thought maybe I shouldn't use the terminology that I did recently, and then I still chose to. So
still
sometimes
chose
you
to.
gotta feel bad about the choices you make.
Yep. Happens.
Yeah. You go yet?
I'm trying to. Just don't exactly know where or what I'm doing.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. I think that I'm castling, because I'm just gonna
Okay.
treat castling as a good idea.
It looked like you castled.
That's what I did.
So,
Hope that works out for me.
and then do, and then do.
I know that we've got over on Twitch, we're joined by Mr. Best and Son, who are in the tournament.
Mr. Best is.
Mr.
That's done
Best
pretty well,
is from a different guild. Forget which one. If you're still in the chat there, Mr. Best, let us know. So many Go Castle players here. Oh, the whole community coming out. That's a lot of pressure you've put on that pawn. I don't like this anymore.
I'm actually enjoying that move, not because I think it's strategically good, but because it's gonna like set off a chain reaction of awesome.
Yeah, now like I'm feeling the same way. I'm like, now I move. Now I just capture something, or I let you advance to my side.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can continue to set it up, baby.
I love setting things up. I'm gonna let you make the first. Or do I? You've got a lot more pressure on that space. I kind of want to capture now just to get it away from here. I don't want it.
What you do, do be do.
And if we open up a file here, unless you just capture with the bishop, or I take the other pawn. I don't think I like either of those captures, which is why I'm tempted to let you just do it. Yes. Can I move another piece that looks at that spot right there on the board? Not at the moment. I guess I get my escape pawn set up for my castle. I've got a move where I just want to bide my time. Escape pawn's important because if you check me on the very bottom file, or sorry, not file, row, the very bottom row, then I'm dead because I got nowhere to move in there. So you give yourself a place to move the king so that you don't get checkmated dirty in your castle. You've developed a rook. I'll develop a rook. This is getting interesting. Lots of tension. Deep breath, deep in the game.
So neither of us really
Mine's
know how to
all
play
over
this
this
game, is what you're
board
saying.
right now. I gotta see what you're about to do to it. Whoever of us wins this gets to play Bando in the bracket.
Bando's British, right?
I think so. I don't think that he's available right now to play with us, but we'll get to do that off stream. Looks like, I think, where are we going in the losers bracket? 5. Which is
One of
showing
us
off
is
screen.
definitely going in the losers bracket.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
The question
certain.
is how fast?
Yes.
I think loser of 5 plays loser of 6, which is Blasis Shadow, which I haven't revealed the winner-loser of yet to the stream, and I'm replaying that match. So I won't yet, but we'll play the loser of the match that I've been showcasing.
I'm
It
confused.
is-
They played it, but
They played it
you
earlier
gotta, like-
today, and I have the replay of it that I've been reviewing on stream.
Oh.
Move your knight. And the score isn't
you, like-
reported on Challenge yet, so I'm going to report it once it's revealed on stream.
Is Challenge how you say that?
Yeah, it's a funny name. Kind of challenge, I guess, but I don't know. Weird.
Well, we used it back in the old SPPD. Yeah.
SPPD.
Phone, South Park Phone Destroyer.
Huh.
We did tournaments and such. I got destroyed often. Because by the time we started doing tournaments, I had stopped playing it.
I see. Let's see. I'm gonna move a pawn up? What am I doing right now? I'm moving a
What are you
pawn
doing?
up.
That's a good pawn.
I sure hope so.
You ready?
Yeah.
You want to set it off?
Well, whatever you want to do.
I'm sorry. F setting off,
It's
baby.
so hard sometimes when you're used to speaking a certain way.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I do I trade down the pawns? Yes, because otherwise I'll lose another pawn. I think I do. You develop a piece that's protected by a pawn. Or you just capture with the pawn. Wonder how I feel about that. You've got too many pieces trained on this one. But one of them's pinned. That'll do. At this point, do I want my queen out there like that? We both just trade down the bishop and the knight. Yeah. I don't know that I do, but I just want to like do the bloodbath, and I don't want to trade out. I don't want to die to a pawn. Now the question is, do you capture me? How do you capture me? I just recognized in a moment there that I'd opened up a very good move for you, I think, where your rook on c1 could have suddenly captured my knight on c6, who is tragically unprotected. I didn't notice that until after I'd made the move. I'm gonna move.
Hey, can I have a do-over?
It does support takebacks in case of like a misinput or something that we want to redo.
Oh, I know. I already had to do it with the computers.
Oh, good.
But yeah.
Okay, so here's where I do the wild move. And I move my queen into the threat of your knight.
Why would you do that?
Because you can't move the knight, because otherwise you'd put yourself in check. Because of my rook.
Oh, you've got me, sir.
Well, and I don't know how I feel, because now my queen's just out there. And I'm not. It's even threatened. But I traded even on the pieces. I just don't know about my position. Pieces.
And you had one more move on me that I did not realize.
The queen, the sneaky queen, ready to jump into the action at the end.
No, I saw the queen just fine. I didn't see that rook up there ready to take the king.
Oh, right, at the very end.
Yeah.
Opening the queen's option to actually claim that spot without dying. To a knight, unprotected. I gotta develop some pieces real fast. Normally we run the Bunland stream until the top of this next hour. Though this is a special day, the chess tournament, we're gonna run it as long as we can get live matches on screen. Let's see.
Yeah, sure.
You move up a pawn, and I'm tempted to capture it. And I think I want to capture it with my queen? No. No, I'm going to capture it with the knight. Okay, now I'm going to fork you in the dirtiest way. Dirtiest way I've
Are you
ever
saying
seen.
fork instead of the other F word? Because that really doesn't change it.
I am saying fork as in during chess when a piece has eyes on multiple, this case 3 pieces I threaten. And because of the protection from the queen, you can't capture it with your king. And I get my pick of bishop, rook, or queen. Though you have a move to change my choice. The rook comes to threaten my queen and turn it into a trade. And if I move my queen, my knight's no longer protected. Ah. Well played. But I think that I'll trade rook for knight. And just capture the rook. Keep my eyes on that knight. I think that's my move. Now I've still got threat on your queen. I just took my rook, or your rook, I should say. Queen's gonna put itself into a safe position. I'm going to... Wait a minute. Mate in 1. I'm gonna just throw the queen in there. We got it.
All right, well that was fun. How many moves did it take? 19. Jesus, that was terrible.
Oh, I got a really good advance there.
I would like to make a note.
Yeah.
You suck.
Done. No
Notes
salt.
made.
A little bit of salt and no hard feelings. Thanks for playing.
Yeah, I'm glad that I showed up for this. I just got yelled at for not being mommy and making my kid go to bed, and then I got my ass handed to me in chess.
Oh, and you couldn't clean your language up for the kid-friendly stream one last time.
What did you say?
And you couldn't clean up your language for the kid stream one last time.
Oh, did I curse there?
It's so natural sometimes. And this is something that I like to point out to be aware of for younger people who are first hearing and starting to pick up these words. People experiment with what they hear. So what I suggest to people is that they be aware of its effect and what the consequences are of it for them.
What did I slip out?
Apple is one of my favorite substitutes, or apple core, for the A word.
I didn't even realize.
I just snuck in there. It was really natural.
Well, hopefully I didn't blow my cover as a donkey farmer. That's what I was referring to.
Oh,
and
that's a good one.
Sorry to the Bun kids.
It's all right. Go have fun with your daughter.
Yeah, no. She's not. She's asleep. I'm gonna go have.
Okay, this is after hours. It's after hours. You're over on the East Coast. You got that time zone. We are 3 hours apart. You are winding down while I'm just right in the swing of it. I finish my stream and go make dinner.
How are you doing with the COVID stuff out there? Is it locked down?
LA is not great. PSA, LA is not great. It's a crowded city and they allowed people to open everything up and take off masks, and right now it's not great. Delta is, making its rounds still. So I am personally very conservative and I've been very inside. And spaces like this one, I love, adore, and so value that there are very safe ways that we can socialize. Though I do want to recognize that there's nothing like that feeling of being in person. It can't be replaced. Though, yes, all that to say, it's picking up pace.
Can't be replaced, but it can be deferred a little bit for the sake
deferred a little bit. This is, and I know I also want to acknowledge that this doesn't work for all people. Different people are more or less comfortable with interaction in the online realm, and it gives them more or less fulfillment in terms of their social needs.
Fair point.
I'm one of the fortunate to be very comfortable here. Here I am live streaming.
Yeah. Well, the bunny ears help. I'm not watching.
They are incredible. I just, the whole another life springs forth from me as soon as they're on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wish you luck with the stream. I'm sorry to have made such a dismal showing. I look forward to finding out who I'm playing in losers bracket so I can figure out who I'm going to make look good for a game. So.
Well, you've certainly got a balanced outlook. Maybe a bit pessimistic.
Real quick, this isn't the first game you've won in a long time, is it?
No, I'm not awful at chess. I wouldn't say I'm very good, and I'm unrated, but I'm not awful.
Okay. Well, I look forward to my first victory sometime. Maybe I'll
All
make
right,
my wife
well, good luck. You'll get it.
Attention.
Okay.
All right. See you, buddy.
Goodbye. And now that we're off call, and welcome home, Nor. Hi. I'm gonna review this old match from earlier today at the park again. Ooh, oh, we've got some packages? It's like Christmas. Oh, we've got new downstairs neighbors! No, but they probably are taking the parking spot that we wanted.
Oh. Wait, are you still on?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's alright. It's, you know, modern life. We were just talking about living in LA with the current state of COVID. Just life. I have won my match. I won my match against Doc Talk just now. Thank you. I didn't go 0-2 as I was very ready to do in this tournament because there are a lot of clever players here. And I'm a clever bunbun, but there are some very clever players here. So picking up where I left off, and at this point I need to ping, I assume you'll input our results. Yes, I just did. Let's see. At this point, it looks like Nike and Chris aren't going to be able to do their game. Nike is not available. Let's go down the list and see if there are other people I can invite while I review this game that happened, that I got to watch at the park earlier today. Toasted and How Am I Alive played theirs. We have Mr. Best and Glazed Donut that I hope would be available. Let's see if they are. Are you available to play now? Let's check. Now, where I left off in the story, this is fun because as I watched this at the park, it started with just like 3 of us. Eventually we were 4, 5, 6. At this point we're 6. It's really ramping up tension. We're towards the end of the game. It's really exciting. Where we're at, it's basically queens. White has been up, Blasis has been up just a little bit in pieces this whole game, and that's reflected at the end here with the rook over the bishop, the major over the minor piece. It's been in close contention. There's been a lot of back and forth, some blunders between the two of them that made big swings. So right now the game is very even between Shadow and Blasis. Shadow is putting on an offensive at this point where they've put Blasis in check with their queen, which has been happening a lot. There's been a lot of freedom with the open board to be able to do queen checks. At this point, the engine is suggesting that Shadow capture Blasis' pawn, though instead Shadow chose to put Blasis in check again. The rook moves to block the check and threaten the currently unprotected queen, which retreats to a position where it lays threat on a protected rook while being safe itself. Now we see Blasis take another step at the pawn to try and get that free piece. It is put in check by a protected queen and continues protecting the rook that is now also protected by another queen. Now we see Shadow's one move away from getting a pawn on the back row and claiming another queen. And instead of trying to protect it or threaten the current queen with the rook, as the engine is suggesting, we got a response from Blasis that was, I'm going to move my pawn and threaten that I get the same thing. Now, of course, you're going to get yours first, and it's going to threaten the space my pawn appears in, which has happened, And I can't necessarily make mine now unless I want to just lose it. So I'm going to put you in check. Blasis is going to put Shadow in check. At this point, Shadow moves their king in a way where it's put in check by, instead of, as the engine suggested, the queen, the rook. Let's see. Mr. Best is, okay, no problem, not going to be available. I wrote Bunland, which is, I think, funny, and I'm leaving it. No edits. Going right down the list, I think that's who we had lined up for today. So those games came through and will have to be done offline. And perhaps at another time in the Bunland Discord or elsewhere, I'll be reviewing these games with people. The rook moved in to put Shadow in check and was blocked by a protected bishop from king and queen. The king is put in check by the queen, who moves out of it. At this point, the engine suggests capture the bishop, trade down. But instead, we're going to see Blasis put them in check again. At this point, this feels a little bit like a blunder because now Blasis's rook is unprotected and the king can take, which is what happens. And that is a tragic loss. That was a little unnecessary. Now Blasis is going to continue chasing down the king, putting them in check as much as possible. Shadow's going to swing this bishop around, can use to block some of these advances from the queen. Now Shadow says, I want to get all my pieces together. I want to get my queen up here defending too. I'll offer a queen trade because I'm now leading in pieces. So this would be great for me. At this point, the engine suggests you're open now to get a second queen and trade down some others. No, I don't know. Oh, because you could capture it with your queen. Then you'd just be trading down. Oh, right now you're playing against two queens and then you'd be playing against one. Yeah, that'd be good. Whoops. That's not what I meant to do, of course. I just skipped to the end of the game. And I'm not going to say the result in case people didn't see it. What we see happen here is that instead of turning the queen, the pawn to a queen, Shadow is going to, the queen is going to move down. Move down to put Shadow in check. Shadow blocks with queen. Queen trade initiates. King has to capture. Then there's nothing left. There's nothing left for Blasis but these pawns and the king. King's going to try and get up to this pawn to support it, but backs off when the queen blocks the way. It takes the pawn. Now Blasis looks like very in hot water. At this point, I was explaining to the kids, now 8 of us, all here to watch the very end of the game, how this was an eventual long, slow defeat where ultimately Blasis is trying to get a stalemate. They can get a position where he just ends up moving back and forth and can't ever be put into checkmate. But instead, he eventually gets cornered. He slowly moved up the board. Very, very carefully, with the king blocking his ability to advance down and the queen slowly choking out the space. And he eventually... This looks like a totally unnecessary move, to be honest. He could have just checkmated here, but he wanted to flex because he knew that you can only move into the corner anyway. And I'm going to get you pinned right like that. That's it. It was mate 97. We got 97 moves in this game compared to the 19 move. But let's be fair. The game really ended closer to here when this queen trade happened. This was where I think it was probably safe to resign, but we played it all the way out in 68 moves. A decent length game. I don't know what the average length game is. But that was Blasis versus Shadow. Shall now report here. Went to Shadow. Shadow beat Blasis 1-0. Shadow will advance in the bracket. And Blasis will wind up against Doc Chalk in losers. And I don't think they're available now because that's why they played their match earlier. I believe these are players hail from Germany. And they brought it when their time zone allowed. So we got to replay it here on stream. In the interest of time, I can look at this other game a little past the hour. And I don't think that I have a live game to stream, but we'll go ahead and at Chessfun, or at who's available. None of these people that currently have games are available to play, so it doesn't make sense for me to ping them. that's all the live games that I have for today. If you'd like to stick around for the review of this one of Suntory and Scott, this one's going to be a surprise to me. I don't actually know how this ends. I know who won. It's indicated in the bracket, but sorry, I do know how it ends, but I don't know how it went. It looks like the game is 84 moves long, so there was some contest. Hey Bunbun, see you there in the chat, Charlie. Mommy, I hurt my toe. Don't know exactly what you're saying, but it's been read, if that's what we're looking for. Let's run through this game, and that'll be where we conclude our stream. We're seeing this opening with pawn on the outside. Knights, we're mirroring this far into the game. We're mirroring still. Now we're diverging a little bit. I'm interested in this move that the bishop came out and then moved back. Was it a mistake, a misinput? It was a thrown move as it was. Stockfish has its own recommendations. This is the way that Sun and Scott played this match. Sun is playing black, Scott is playing white. Scott realizes this opportunity after... This is interesting. They moved their bishop out of the way for nothing. Then they moved it back and it's threatening the rook all the way down. It's not blocked by Sun, so Suntoria loses their rook to 1-up Scott. At this point, Suntoria develops their position. That knight is so far off the corner, they're basically not on the board, except for once they're kind of tucked in with that pawn. At this point, we're just seeing some development. This knight sees it wants to advance. It is in position to put in the potential queen-rook fork should it be protected on that space, which currently there's not a development that shows that happening, except for the potential advancement of this bishop that would open that up, but there's a pawn in the way. Right now, this happens, taking away the knight's protection, so now the engine is recommending the capture. It didn't happen, the opportunity wasn't recognized, and a knight is moved out to be developed. It's put on the rim. It doesn't have space to move elsewhere. At this point, seeing that their pawn is threatened, we're going to see 1-up Scott throw a pawn forward to protect it, and that part of the board develops. Right now, black is still not recognizing the opportunity for the free capture of the knight, so the engine is hung up on that while a rook is developed by Suntoria in the back row. We see the pawn advance to pressure the knight while being seen by other pawns. Knight moves out of position to be threatened by that, and we see a rook building pressure on this same area for development. A lot of interest and attention for 1-up Scott on this pawn in this area. Still an unprotected knight with opportunity to be captured by bishop, which moves though doesn't make the capture opportunity still unrecognized. Now the knight is protected by queen, and there's no other contest on this space from other pieces from Suntoria, so that'll stand. At this point, we see more development of this knight from Suntoria, and instead of moving the pawn, as Stockfish might suggest, the rook is brought out to have a discoverable threat to a protected knight. This knight is just dancing all around, just all over the place, can't make up its mind where it wants to be. It's now eventually moved into position where it protects this pawn that has become a particular interest, or sorry, it's kind of on that. This rook is now moving, it's just kind of snaking its way through to now put pressure on an unprotected pawn and join and advance from the corner with the other bishop, which is captured by the knight who's been traveling all around. It finally made it to its target destination, and the bishop seems to be caught unawares. But perhaps not, because the threat on the knight was set up and it traded for a pawn. Knight is going to move out to where it's within sight of the queen for protection, and then what looks like to be a blunder. Oops. 1-up Scott is going to move their rook into position to be captured by a pawn, which happens. At this point, we see this knight come back to set up something that I'm not seeing yet, and the action is big down here in the corner. The bishop moving into the corner here doesn't seem to give them access to anything that I notice. Though it does, I suppose, offer room for a knight to develop into that space while still putting them somewhere safe. We're seeing development of this bishop to chase down that pawn. The engine is insisting that the most important part of the board right now is these 2 pawns. And of course, it's going to challenge every move that isn't those. This pawn moves forward, can now be captured by queen, and is a little in the deep, not protected, so that's what's going to happen. The queen is going to capture it. That's how that played out. Looks like a blunder unless there was a deeper plan. Sun moves forward a rook. Queen moves in, would like to have options for its own advance down to a pawn in front of king, potential trade with other queen. Right now, let's check. I think that pieces are relatively even. We both have a knight. I'm down a rook as Scott, and my bishops are also down a bishop as Scott, so it's looking like Suntoria is the one who wants to make trades right now. We're seeing Scott move pawns forward, Sun moves pawns forward. We're just jockeying for position at the moment. Sun moves a knight into the middle of the board where they opened up the spot by moving the bishop so that they could develop a piece that way. Knight, king moves forward. Interesting defensive position being assumed here by Scott. One up Scott. Interesting development of the bishop. I suppose it's the only place to develop the piece 2 unless you're throwing it in the middle here where it retains its protection of rook. Here we see the queen move where it threatens an undefended bishop that was sent to a place where it was bound to be threatened, and it ends up moving to where it can be chomped on by a pawn. Ouchie! Looked like a blunder to me. That's a piece off the board. At this point, we see a discover check happen, the rook. Interestingly, the engine is saying you could have captured this pawn, and because the check was made by the rook, your knight would be free then to take this bishop after the move. And maybe in a trade, but you're ahead on pieces, so the trade, or sorry, for a bishop, not for a rook. So you're good on the trade. The knight moved to a safer position that was immediately threatened by the king, though now there's, we're just going to see the knight end up retreating in the end, so it just ends up in a defensive position. It's kind of maintaining that advancing, claiming more space on the board. Scott now threatens bishop that runs all the way back into the corner, and the knight's going to develop. We're going to see Scott trying to bring their pieces forward. And now we discover check. We capture a pawn on b5, and the bishop in the corner discovers check on Scott's king, which is blocked by a pawn. A rook has moved forward to add pressure to that space with the pawn, and we see development from the bishop for Scott. They're building up position again. Now a capture happens over here where pawns were facing each other down, both protected, and we're going to trade pawns back. Now the engine is still suggesting go ahead and just trade pieces, which is interesting. I don't understand the suggestion to almost sack your knight for a pawn. Instead, looking at that pawn and wanting to capture it, Suntoria moves a pawn to threaten it. The pawn is protected by rook. Now we see a big development of a row of pawns that offer a lot of protected spaces for the bishop to move. And then the pawn capture happens in the middle of the board. The queen takes a step to protect the pawn that was otherwise unprotected. The capture is made and check is discovered by the bishop. At this point, the bishop wins its chance to steal away with a rook for free, though the opportunity is not recognized, and this rook is developed to add pressure to a pawn that is being pressured by the queen. And now this pawn moves forward to challenge the rook for that position. The rook yields, and the queen now captures the unprotected pawn. Wanting to trade pawns, Suntoria captures this pawn with their knight, and the knight is then chomped on by the queen. Whoops. The bishop moves into the middle of the board, gaining visibility of I don't know what. I guess this position that this knight moves into, though it's protected by the queen. This queen moves out to threaten the knight, focusing on that end of the board again. And unfortunately, the knight sacks a castle here. The rook is captured. which is very big, very bad that the rook was not instead traded. We move this to threaten the knight, who's like, I wasn't trying to stay here anyway, though I'll trade my minor piece for your major. You get to chomp on me with the pawn, and I'm going to run away with your knight behind that pawn. I had that set up, so now I've made out with a lot and left you with little. I've got a knight as son, I've Scott. I've got a knight and a rook in the corner that need to come into play and be developed, and it's going to take them a little bit to do that, or at least the rook will come out fairly quickly. The knight needs a couple moves to make it to a meaningful position, and there's not some beautiful ones to get to. You might need a third move just to get pieces out of its way. But of the pieces that are developed, we've got queen and bishop from both sides kind of out in the field working. And that's it. This looks really good for Scott, just for being up so many pieces, with neither player in a necessarily completely compromised position. Now, this looks like a real blunder because that queen is unprotected. That queen just moved into the threat of another with no protection. And instead of being captured, I just want to stress that, Scott puts Suntoria in check, who moves out of it and is put back into it. Moves out of it, and then we're going to start developing that knight. Shout out to LA's fire trucks. Thank you for doing your job. It's a great service. We're now going to be putting each other in check a lot to try and gain control of the match. Pawns advance, pawn capture, chomp pawn, threaten queen. You're protected by knight. Queen gets out of the way. Knight threatens queen. Queen moves into threaten knight with protection from pawn and bishop. Knight is protected by pawn. Bishop is not. Engine says move queen for check. That's protected by bishop. But we're going to see from Scott, move bishop out of threat. Offer knight that is protected. Now, Suntoria forks this bishop with the king in check. And the king has to move, the bishop is taken, the king's moved into a position where it's put in check again. Would be forked with the rook, but protects the rook by standing next to it. Is really being wrangled here. Moves to protect its pawn, brings another piece down to threaten that pawn, making it a safe place to stand for the queen. Now we're going to need to put our opponent in check before that very scary, almost checkmate situation can fire off. At least Scott has their knight protecting this pawn, so there's, not all not, though this undeveloped rook is not helping that much. This person, we see Suntoria move out of check into a position where they could be put into check again by a knight that would be protected by a queen. Instigating either a queen trade or just an advantaged position. Instead, we see the rook developed to try and make itself useful. The queen moves in a way where it wants to set up to jump in. I don't know where exactly. It's moving diagonally on black spaces, so it's not going to meet up a protected space from its white bishop. This pawn moves forward, late game dreams of getting that. Now we make the move. Instead of moving in with the queen, we're actually going to do it with the bishop, allowing more mobility for Scott's king. It's going to be declined for the capture. And we're going to see Suntoria remove their queen from a situation they don't want it in. Into potentially a position to protect from check. Excuse me, right now it looks like Scott is using their queen to escort a pawn to the other side of the board. They're going to be put in check where they tuck themselves into the corner of the board again. Black queen threatens knight. Rook protects. Queen puts in check. Rook blocks. Queen sacks knight. That's bad. In check, moves out. In check, lost a knight here in the process. Keeping in check, blocks with rook. Now threatening rook, though king is protecting, so this is a move where we're going to see the dream of getting that pawn to the top and getting another queen is left alive. Another check on the king, moves out, blocks with rook, moves out, blocks with rook, moves out, loses rook. Whoops! A blunder. Oof. And at this point in the game, it says that check mode is now unavoidable. So there is a way for us to see checkmate. I believe for Suntoria. I'm watching the moves very carefully now. We're just putting this king in check. We're not letting them out of check. Queen's going to chase you all over the board. You're going to block with your queen and offer the trade because then you just have this one pawn that you turn into a queen. So Suntoria has to decline that. If Suntoria can get this pawn, it would be great. Ooh, threatening the pawn. Not going to take it yet because it would just be, you'd lose your queen over it. Scott is defending this pawn, puts the king in check while actually continuing to defend the pawn, and gets the queen out of it. And then black resigned. What a switch up. Here we are. You've got initiative chasing them around the board. Then you lose it right here when you're put in check all of a sudden because they were able to use their queen to block your check and put you in check. Move out of it. This game had so many back and forths, and this was where there was resignation. After recognizing that, okay, you're going to get your second queen, and you're just going to checkmate me with 2 queens. I don't need to play that out. I get it. You've got lots of options. Have fun. What a match. That had so many back and forths. It's always possible to win. You never know when your opponent's going to make a blunder. Though if you're playing against... sorry, I've been missing a lot of your messages in the chat. I got really absorbed in that game. I want to go back on the chats here for a moment just to acknowledge some of this. Let's see. Yeet Banana, hello. I'm glad that you made it. For Son, you're in the in the chat, realizing that you could have taken out a bishop. I'm glad you're here, Milk Gang. And Charlie alias Alyssa. I love all that you've been talking in the chat here. I think that this is lyrics to a song, if I were to guess. It looks like a silly one, all about stubbing your toe. And mommy kisses being, of course, the best medicine. That's common knowledge, of course. What a game, Son and Scott. You guys went back and forth for a while. That had a lot of twists and turns. There were moments that I thought it was decided for one player, and it was not. And I'm going to remember that as we watch matches in bracket, and as I go through bracket myself. This has been very fun. I'm loving the chess tournament developing, and thanks everyone who shared it today with us. It was really cool. It was very fun. And I'm going to conclude our stream there. That's all the matches that I have to stream today. And I thank you for coming. Catch you next time. Goodbye, everybody.